You probably saw this coming, don't say you didn't, but yes, we're making more videos on the furry fandom, or just furries in general, because everyone knows I very dislike the furry fandom for many reasons. Of course, I won't be as aggressive, or try not to be as aggressive in the past, because I've realized that the way that I tried to put out the furries, I would have to say that it is a little biggish, a little bigot of me to do that kind of stuff, but it will not stop me from believing that the furry fandom is really a bad fandom, and people should be aware of that, because in my opinion, the definition of a furry, an unnatural desire to become an anthropomorphic animal or an unnatural interest of anthropomorphic animals. And that can go into a sexual way, of course. That's what I mean by an unnatural way. But today we will be talking about an individual on YouTube who calls herself Hugh Gshep. Now that's short for German Shepherd. She's a furry commentator on YouTube who has talked about things in the past. Of course, she seems to be a starting up channel because she doesn't really have that much content on her channel. She has like, what, 4 or 5 videos up in there, and that's fine. I'm not going to make 5 minutes about that, talking about how she has 5, clips and how that is showing that the furry fandom is the worst thing ever. No. But there's one specific video, 2 specific videos, one that I choose to not make a video about because I'm conflicted about it and I don't believe that I have enough evidence to go against it. But there is one video that I do want to talk about, and it is her video talking about the Eskimo situation.
Wow. And I thought this fandom was just about being a fan of anthropomorphic animals.
But it's not, though. It is a unnatural interest in anthropomorphic animals. There's a big difference. I may have an interest in Star Wars, but it isn't an unnatural interest in Star Wars. But with many furries, it tends to be an unnatural interest in the anthropomorphic phase of an animal. And of course, what I mean by natural, as I already said before, I mean a sexual interest in anthropomorphic animals. And I'm not going to say that all of them, have that unnatural lust for an anthropomorphic animal, but what I'm saying is that the majority of them have an unnatural desire for an anthropomorphic animal. So therefore, the majority wins in so many situations, but in today's society, it seems that minorities tend to win. So either way, it can go both ways. There's a minority where people like the sexuality of the furries, or the mass majority of the furries love to sexualize themselves as animals.
I didn't know there were rules to what can be a fursuit and what can't. You just learn something new every day now, don't you?
In every society and every community, there always going to be a standard for something. So having a standard for, say, a fursuit or a fursuit head is not unnatural. It's actually natural. Every single fandom or community, as I would prefer to say, because at this point fandom is just, in my mind, registers as something bad, but every community has a standard, and that's not wrong. Of course, everyone has their own standards for a reason. Humankind needs standards so that they can progress into something greater. Without standards, we would be lying in a bunch of trash, where everyone is doing things that are degradable and just overall disgusting. So that's why we need standards. But of course, in this video, she's going to talk about how these standards are, on the borderline of just, somewhat of harassment, but I highly disagree with that. Because of a lot of things that I believe in. But I'll let you guys watch the rest of the video before I, start blabbing about everything, so move on.
Honestly, I didn't plan on making a video on this necessarily, but after thinking about it, I wanted to put my opinion out on how these heads benefit our fandom more than it hurts us.
That notion scares me because I still believe that the furry fandom is a very bad fandom, and if you have interests in anthropomorphic animals, that is absolutely alright. But when you turn that interest into a sexual interest, then there will be problems, just in life in general. So if I were you, if you're considering to be a furry, or you are furry already, be careful. Be super careful. Even leave the fandom, because in my opinion, I personally do and honestly believe that the furry fandom has become such a corrupt, or always has been, not has, it just became corrupt. It always has been corrupt. There's always a sense of sexuality with these people. So be careful with that. But with this being said, that the Maskimals are being promoted to help furries, promote themselves out there in a good way, there is a problem there. There's a big problem.
Ever since this product was released, I have noticed how the fandom now seems to have expectations for fursuits. Yeah, expectations for fursuits.
And here we go again. She's saying this in a way that she's surprised or shocked. She says it in a way that she's pretty angry about it. But again, it's not wrong to have a standard. I've seen the Maskimals, and if you've ever been to Walmart and your local Walmart has Maskimals, you would have to say that, well, in my opinion, I personally don't like them. I think they look horribly made, and of course, it's Walmart, so they don't make anything really, creative or something that is worth $20, but they put it out as $20, so it not only is it easily accessible for anyone to buy, but in general, it doesn't look that good. So I would have to agree with the other furries who say that they do not like the fursuits, because they just don't look great at all. And it's okay to have that standard. You'd be like, okay, that fursuit doesn't look good at all. That's not something bad to have. If we don't have these standards, like I said before, we would fall into a place to where we would be degradable human individuals, and we would be doing things that would be absolutely disgusting and unwilling to the Lord. So, with that being said, having standards is good. Now, how you handle the standards is a whole different situation, because she's going to cover it. But there's always a good way to put out your standards, and there always is a bad way to put out your standards in a bad way. And my opinion, for you at least, my suggestion, my advice for you, for anyone who is watching this video, is if you have a standard, put it out there, but put it out in a good way, in a productive way. Because if you have an opinion about something, you want to put it in a way that is constructive, in a way that people will understand it, and they will not be like, this person has no idea what they're talking about. I know what I'm talking about. I've been through a lot of things with the furries. I've seen a lot of things about them. I watched a lot of content of the furries so that I could use that information to destroy the furry fandom. Now, do I want the furry fandom to die out? Kind of. I mean, I'm not as aggressive, back then, because if I would have seen a furry, back then I would have flipped out. I would have started screaming at them. But funny story, I actually did see one a while back. Actually, not a while back, like 2 days ago, and I just laughed and I took a picture on Snapchat and I wrote "Get out," because and I say I'm not that aggressive, but it was passive aggressive. I didn't go up to the person and say, "Hey, you nasty human individual, get out of my mall." But I didn't say that. I just looked at him with weirdness. It's like, wow, I didn't know we had furries in Alabama, but apparently we do. But again, standards are there for a reason, and we should respect that. We should respect the standards that are placed on any community, because they're there for a reason. It's there to help the individuals who want to contribute in the fandom or in the community.
Saying that their heads are ugly and cringe. I hate to say it, but I have seen actual suits made in this fandom that look worse.
See, right there, I believe that she has contradicted herself. Why? Because she is stating that people are calling these Maskimal heads cringy and disturbing, and they can't be accepted. But she turns around and says that there are fursuit heads or fursuits that look worse than the Maskimals. Now, of course, she didn't go out of her way and say that she doesn't accept these things, but it almost seems like she's trying to imply that. Of course, everyone has an agenda, and she tried to push the agenda that everyone should be accepted of whatever fursuit they have, but the fact that she added that small piece kind of defeats the entire argument that she has. So, if you're watching this, Hugh, be careful with what you say, because whatever you say can be used against you, especially with an opinion that you have, because if you contradict yourself, people are going to think that whatever you say or what opinion you have will not hold merit, and they will discard it and say, this person has no idea what they're talking about, why should I listen to them, or why should I agree to this person? So they're going to discard you if you continue contradicting yourself in this sort of way. Now, you may think that you haven't contradicted yourself, but this is how I view it. And if you think I'm absolutely wrong, then that's fine. But that's how I view it, and be really careful with that, because people will see that and they will use that against you. So it's best to have an opinion that you don't contradict yourself, because if you don't contradict yourself, people are going to say, hey, this person has merit. This person knows what's up, and we're gonna listen to them. And that's super important on YouTube. Anyone who wants to do YouTube wants to do YouTube for whatever reason, you have to have an opinion. You have to have something to hold on to, so that when you promote it, when you have that agenda to push, people will see that and they will say, we like this agenda, we like what's being pushed on us, and we will accept it. But if you contradict yourself like that, people are going to not like that and click off very quickly. So with that being said, be careful what you say and don't contradict yourself, especially with your opinions, because your opinions are the law on your community.
Younger furries don't have as big of a chance to obtain a fursuit. Most can't afford it, and a good majority of fursuit makers decline younger buyers because they haven't stopped growing, and they don't want them to spend all of this money just to grow out of their character. I have seen quite a few videos of young furries adding their own touches and flares to these heads, and they're proud. And honestly, I support it 110%.
It seems like she's also upset by this, but in fact, I believe that's good for a fursuit maker, or also known as a factory, in my opinion, because they're creating the next monstrosities, to walk among men, But, it's their right. They make the fursuits. They decide whether or not they want to make the fursuit for you or not, because they have the better judgment. They are the ones to make it, You give them the money, but it's their decision, Of course, that could be used against me. I noticed that could be a flawed philosophy, because if they choose not to make a fursuit with you because of your race, then that is obviously racist. Of course, I see that. But here, in this case, I believe it's a genuine thing to try to help out this child who wants to become a furry, because obviously a child grows. It's a thing that a child does, unless it's a dwarf, which in that case, nothing wrong with that, but it would be, kind of okay for the person to make the fursuit. But if the child isn't a dwarf and is, and the child, whatever gender it may be, grows at a normal and healthy rate, then they will grow out of their fursuit and waste, $4,000, believe it or not? And plus, $4,000 and up. These things aren't cheap. They're not your regular costumes that you get at, Party City. It's not that kind of thing. These people make fursuits for a living, and obviously they take a lot of time to create, and they kind of look decent, I will have to say. Not all of them, but there's some that have kind of surprised me, and I say that, and it kind of kills me to say that, but there's some decent looking ones out there. Okay, there's some decent ones out there, but it's in the few. But again, Miss Hugh, you have to be careful with that, because it's their right. They have the right to say yes or no, because they know what's probably best for the person. And of course, you might not agree with me on that, but the best avenue to go through is the maskimal avenue, because in this case, the child's young. They can do whatever they want with the mask, and I've seen the videos that you've talked about. They don't look good, in my opinion. They make it look worse. Surprisingly, you take something that looks bad and then you just turn around and make it even more worse, but then call it art because you've done something creative with it. And of course, it's creative, but it doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's good. It just means you've done something creative that managed to make the thing look even more worse. But with that being said, though, it is better they did that than waste time on another person who makes fursuits for a living, and for that person to waste a lot of time, and then for the person who wants to purchase the fursuit to waste a lot of money just to outgrow it. So, in my opinion, it's kind of flawed what you said there. It's better if the child waits until he's older, like 18, but I hope that they change their minds. I hope they change their minds, because that's just a really dangerous path to go through. But if they change their minds about the situation, they can decide to not put in a lot of money for a fursuit. But if they don't, then they become one with the furry fandom. And I pray to God that they are not in the phase of like they have a sexual interest with anthropomorphic animals, because that's just gonna start over the cycle all over again, and we don't want that, now do we? No, we don't.
You never know. These might be our future fursuit makers.
More factories to be created? I don't think so. I kind of take back what I said. I actually don't want these children to ever consider being a furry, because if they do decide to make a furry of themselves, and even worse, to become contributors to the furry fandom, my God, that would be the worst thing that could ever happen, because that would just promote more horrors. And that would just be awful, now wouldn't it? Because in my opinion, like I said before, like 1,000 times, and I really hate saying in my opinion, because that's just a shield to protect yourself. And, you know, it really is my opinion, because I don't want to sound like I'm promoting something that I believe is true, but it's my opinion, which technically I do believe it's true, but it's not an objective truth, it's more like a subjective truth. But I've led myself to believe that a lot of things that I've seen with the furry fandom is subjectively bad. But with that being said, though, I don't want these people to become fursuit makers, because that means more factories, more facilities to be, to be able to have more potential to create more beasts, and that's something I don't want.
And get this, not only are furries buying them, but non-furries are also purchasing them, which can help the fandom seem less quote-unquote outlandish.
First off, I don't want the furry fandom to be promoted as something good. I want people to promote the furry fandom as something bad, because it really is something bad, in my opinion. In my opinion. There we go. Again, it's not objectively true, but let's get out of the way. We now understand that what I'm saying is subjective, not objective. We understand what objective and subjective is, right? The subjective truths and objective truths. That's for another video. But anyways, again, I don't want the furry fandom to be promoted in any sort of way. And I don't want people to convert into furries, because that would just be even worse, because they could become, again, contributors to the furry fandom. And I don't want that. I would love to see people contribute to the furry fandom to help them become a better fandom, but it seems like they're not doing anything at all to help the furry fandom. In fact, if I might take off my glasses to become serious, they are contributing in a way that it's making the furry fandom a worse fandom. It's becoming worse. It seems like every single year, it's becoming more and more of a degenerate thing to do to become a furry fandom. And my goodness, it seems like that the furry fandom, even though they get worse, it seems like they're being accepted. Every single year, they come up and they become more and more accepted. And that bothers me. It really does. Look, I don't care if the furry fandom gets accepted, but I do care when they get accepted, they've actually done something productive and something good in society in order for them to get accepted. Because the society tends to accept things that are not correct. So understand that. But hey, if you want to correct yourselves and then get noticed, I'll be fine with that. In fact, I'll be okay with that. I'll be like, hey, let's support that. But if you choose not to do that, and you choose to stay in your own ways of your own savagery, then I can't help you with that. I will actually be against you. My vote will be against you. Just understand that.
The only qualification you need to be a furry is that you enjoy anthropomorphic animals.
Unnatural interest in anthropomorphic animals. Again, gotta promote it. My agenda. Gotta promote my agenda. If I don't promote my agenda, then I ain't promoting anything. So there you go. Unnatural interest in anthropomorphic animals. And of course, I'm putting my hand out as if I am wanting to put something on the screen. It will never happen, because I'm doing this on an iPhone. You can roast me all you want, but I have to ask you one thing, to one man to another. Please don't roast me. I have a weak heart. So in general, the video is somewhat poorly constructed, but it's not overall bad. I wouldn't call it cringy at all. I would just have to say that progress can be made as anyone else, who begins with YouTube. There's always progress. There's always progress to be made. There's always things that can help to make your content better. And what could possibly help her to make better content is to not contradict herself and to actually make valid points on the situation. Because if you don't make valid points on the situation, you're just going to look like an idiot. And of course, you could probably say that I haven't made any valid points in this entire video, but I personally think I have. But hey, that's just my opinion. Shield, you can't defeat me. Can't shoot me with my shield, with my ray shields. Can't do that. But again, thanks guys so much for watching the video. I do appreciate that. If you would love to, write a comment down below. Whatever you want, I don't really care. And Hugh, if you watched it and if you want to make a video about this, I'll be absolutely fine. Just know that there's a good chance I'll probably respond to it, depending on what it could possibly be. But just remember, I did this with the intent of trying to give my advice. I did not want to harass you in any way. I did not want to hurt you in any way. If I did hurt you, please reach out. Didn't tell me. If I did hurt you, my DMs are always open. Just reach out. My Twitter is BrianTheBold79, so if you want to reach me out there, you absolutely can. That is actually my old account. My new account is Bergozin, but it is better if you reach me on BrianTheBold79. So again, guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you liked the video, give it a like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.